The microphone screeched as Carol grabbed it from the DJ at my niece's engagement party. My stomach dropped. I knew that look on her face. That smile that wasn't really a smile. "Can I have everyone's attention?" she called out, and the room went quiet. 200 people turned to look at the stage where my sister stood in her designer dress, champagne glass raised high. "I just want to say how proud we are of Melissa and Brandon. True love does exist." She paused, scanning the crowd until her eyes landed on me. Unlike some people, they didn't wait until they were almost 60 and still unwanted. The room froze. A few people gasped. Others laughed nervously, unsure if this was meant to be funny. My face burned. I forced myself to smile even as my hands shook around my wine glass. Carol raised her drink higher. "To Melissa and Brandon. May they never end up bitter and alone." The toast echoed through the ballroom. I stayed in my seat, frozen, while everyone clinked glasses around me. When I finally made it to my car an hour later, I sat in the parking lot and cried. My phone buzzed. A text from Carol appeared on the screen. "Relax. Learn to laugh at yourself." That was when something inside me broke. Not sadness anymore. Something harder. Something final. "My name is Victoria Patterson. I am 57 years old, from Portland, Oregon. If you want to hear more stories about family betrayal and unexpected revenge, please subscribe to this channel. You won't believe what happened next. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, watching that text message until the words blurred. Learn to laugh at yourself. As if being humiliated in front of 200 people was just innocent fun. As if my feelings didn't matter. I drove home in silence, my mind racing backward through the years. This wasn't the first time Carol had made me the joke. At Thanksgiving 2 years ago, she'd loudly announced that I must be desperate since I was still on dating apps at my age. At our mother's funeral, she'd whispered to our aunt that at least Mom didn't have to worry about me dying alone anymore. Every family gathering became a minefield. Every conversation a trap. I started dreading holidays, inventing excuses to skip dinners. But somehow Carol always found new ways to remind everyone that I was divorced, childless, and apparently pathetic. The worst part was how she made it seem loving. "I'm just worried about you, Vicky," she'd say with fake concern. "I want you to be happy." But it was never about my happiness. It was about her needing to feel superior. Her perfect marriage. Her successful business. Her beautiful children. And me. The cautionary tale she trotted out whenever she needed to feel better about herself. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the darkness. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my cousin Diane. "Are you okay?" That was really harsh. At least someone noticed. The next morning, I called Diane. We met for coffee at a small place downtown where Carol would never go. Diane looked uncomfortable as she stirred her latte. "How long has she been like this?" I asked. Diane glanced around as if Carol might somehow overhear us. "Honestly, Vicky, for years. But it's gotten worse lately." She leaned closer. "There's something you should know. Last month at book club, Carol spent 20 minutes talking about how you let yourself go after the divorce. How you gave up on life." My chest tightened. "She said that to your friends?" "To everyone. She makes these little comments constantly. About your job, your apartment, your appearance. She acts like she's concerned, but it's really just gossip." Diane hesitated, then pulled out her phone. "There's more. Remember when Carol and Warren applied for that business loan 3 years ago?" I nodded slowly. "She listed you as a financial reference." Without asking. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "What? They put your name down as a guarantor or something?" "I don't know the exact terms. But when they defaulted on payments, your name came up. The bank called you, didn't they?" I remembered those calls. Collection agencies looking for Victoria Patterson. I'd thought it was identity theft. I'd spent weeks straightening it out, proving I hadn't signed anything. She did that on purpose? Warren did, probably. But Carol knew. Diane's expression was grim. "How much else don't you know about?" I spent that weekend digging through old paperwork. Bank statements. Credit reports. Legal documents I'd shoved in drawers and forgotten. The picture that emerged made me sick. 3 years ago, around the time of those mysterious collection calls, my credit score had dropped 40 points. I'd assumed it was an error, and eventually it corrected itself. Now I understood. Carol and Warren had used my name without permission, and when their business started failing, my reputation took the hit. But they didn't know something. They didn't know I'd rebuilt my entire life in the years since my divorce. While Carol was busy mocking me at family dinners, I was studying finance at night. While she was posting perfect family photos online, I was earning my certification as a business consultant. For the past 2 years, I'd been working with struggling companies, helping them restructure debt and avoid bankruptcy. I was good at it. Better than good. I'd saved 17 businesses from closing their doors. Nobody in my family knew. I kept my success quiet, not wanting to invite Carol's jealousy or competition. I drove a modest car. I lived in a simple apartment. I let them think I was barely scraping by. On Monday morning, my colleague Thomas stopped by my desk. "Hey, Vicky, you know anything about retail businesses?"
Some.
"Why?" "There's a boutique downtown that's drowning." Owner reached out, desperate for help. He slid a folder across my desk. The name on the business license made my blood run cold. Elegant Threads. Owner, Carol Brennan. I stared at that folder for a full minute. Carol's boutique. The shop she'd bragged about for 5 years. The business she constantly used as proof that she was successful while I was floundering. Thomas waited for my response. "You know this owner?" "She's my sister." His eyebrows shot up.
Oh.
"That's awkward. Want me to pass it to someone else?"
Part of me wanted to say yes.
To avoid the mess completely. But another part of me, the part that still burned from Saturday night's humiliation, wanted to see exactly how bad things were. "No," I said slowly. "I'll take it." Over the next week, I watched Carol from a distance. I drove past her boutique at different times. Morning, afternoon, evening. The shop that used to have customers browsing constantly was now empty. Sales signs covered the windows. The social media posts that once showed off new inventory had stopped 3 months ago. At a family dinner that Thursday, I watched Carol closely. She looked tired. Her smile seemed forced. Her husband Warren was on his phone the entire meal, barely speaking. When someone asked about the boutique, Carol's laugh was too loud, too bright. "Business is great. Just dealing with some supplier issues." But her hands shook when she reached for her water glass. On Friday evening, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I looked through the peephole, Carol stood on my doorstep. Alone.
Crying.
I opened the door slowly. Carol's makeup was ruined, mascara streaking down her face. Her expensive coat was buttoned wrong. She looked like she'd driven here in a panic. "Vicky," she choked out. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside wordlessly. She walked past me into my small living room and collapsed onto my couch. For several minutes, she just cried. I sat in the chair across from her and waited. Finally, she looked up.
Her voice was raw.
"We're losing everything." I stayed silent.
"The boutique is failing."
"We're 3 months behind on rent." "The bank is threatening foreclosure on our house." "Warren's accounts are frozen because of some investigation." Her hands twisted together. "We've got lawsuits from suppliers. Credit cards we can't pay. I don't know what to do." "Why are you telling me this?" She flinched at my cold tone. "Because I heard something. Someone mentioned you work in finance now. That you help struggling businesses." Her eyes were desperate. "Is that true?" "It's true. Can you help me?" "Please, Vicky. I know I haven't always been the best sister, but I'm begging you. I'll lose everything." I studied her for a long moment. The woman who'd humiliated me less than a week ago was now falling apart in my living room. "What exactly do you want from me?" "Save my business. Please." I don't know who else to ask. Carol looked at me with something I'd never seen before in her eyes.
Fear.
Real, genuine terror. Not the performative worry she usually displayed at family gatherings. This was different. "Will you help me?" she whispered. I leaned back in my chair. Every instinct told me to refuse. To let her sink the way she'd tried to drag me down for years. But I'd worked too hard to become good at what I did. I'd helped 17 businesses survive. My professional reputation mattered more than personal revenge. I'll help, I said. Carol's face flooded with relief. But this isn't a favor. This is professional. You'll be my client, not my sister. The relief flickered. What does that mean? It means I do this by the book. Full transparency. Complete honesty. No shortcuts. No family deals. You tell me everything, and I mean everything about your finances.
You follow my advice exactly.
If I find you've lied to me even once, I walk away. That seems harsh. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. Carol bit her lip. She was used to being in control, used to people bending to her will. But she was desperate enough to nod. Okay.
Fine.
Whatever you need. I need full access to your business records. Bank statements. Tax returns.
Supplier contracts.
Everything from the past 5 years. 5 years? That's a lot of paperwork. I know. Bring it to my office Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. She stood to leave, already looking steadier now that someone was handling her crisis. At the door, she turned back.
Thank you, Vicky. Really?
I know we haven't always gotten along, but family is family, right? I didn't answer. I just closed the door behind her. Monday morning at 8:55, Carol walked into my office carrying 3 banker's boxes. She looked better than she had Friday night. Hair styled, makeup perfect, designer handbag, like she was already pretending the crisis was over because I'd agreed to help. I spent the entire day going through her records. What I found was worse than I'd expected. Credit cards maxed out at $30,000. Business loans taken from 3 different banks. Supplier invoices unpaid for 6 months. But that wasn't the ugly part. The ugly part was the falsified revenue reports. Carol had inflated her sales numbers when applying for loans. She'd created fake invoices to make the business look profitable. She'd forged documents. This wasn't just bad luck or poor management. This was fraud. I kept digging. Around 3 in the afternoon, I found something that made my stomach turn. A loan application from 2 years ago. The guarantor section listed Victoria and Patterson. My full legal name. My social security number. My signature. Except I'd never signed anything. I pulled out my phone and took photos of every page. Then I kept searching. 2 more loans. Same pattern. My name. My information. My forged signature. They'd used my identity 3 times. When they defaulted, my credit took the hit. When banks called looking for payment, I was the one harassed. All while Carol smiled at family dinners and made jokes about my sad little life. I closed the folder carefully. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. I wouldn't confront her yet. Not until I had everything documented. Not until I was ready. The discovery of my forged signatures changed everything. I spent Tuesday making copies of every document. I scanned files onto secure drives. I created timelines and spreadsheets. I documented every place my name appeared without authorization. 3 business loans. 1 equipment lease. 2 credit card applications. All fraudulent. All using my identity. The damage to my credit had been real. The collection calls had been real. The stress of proving I hadn't signed anything had been real. But I'd thought it was random identity theft. I'd never imagined my own sister was the thief. On Wednesday, I met with my own lawyer. Arthur Gonzalez had handled my divorce years ago and knew my history with Carol. He looked over the documents with increasing disbelief. This is serious fraud, Vicky. You could press charges. I know. You could sue for damages. Identity theft. Emotional distress. You'd win. I know that too. He studied me carefully. But you're not ready to do that yet.
No.
Not yet. What's your play? I explained my plan. Arthur listened, occasionally nodding. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. That's either brilliant or crazy. Maybe both. Just be careful. Family makes things complicated. This stopped being about family when she forged my signature. Arthur handed back the files. Keep me updated. And Vicky, Don't let anger make you sloppy. Document everything. I promised I would. That evening, Carol called. How's it looking? Can you save the business? Still analyzing, I said calmly. These things take time. How much time? Warren is breathing down my neck. Warren needs to be patient. Unless he wants to declare bankruptcy right now. Silence.
No.
No, we'll wait. Just please hurry. I hung up and went back to my documentation. Patience was the key now. For the next 2 weeks, I worked Carol's case during the day and documented her fraud at night. She called constantly, asking for updates, wanting reassurance. I gave her just enough information to keep her hopeful, but not enough to feel secure. I'm working on a restructuring plan, I'd say. Or, I've identified some areas where we can cut costs. All true, but I wasn't telling her everything. I contacted 3 forensic accountants I'd worked with before. They confirmed what I already knew. The fraud was systematic and intentional. Then I did something Carol didn't expect. I started reaching out to her creditors directly, not to negotiate on her behalf, but to provide them with accurate information, to show them the real financial picture, to protect myself. One Thursday evening, Warren called me. His voice was tight with controlled anger. Vicky, we need to talk. About what? About how slow you're moving. Carol says you're taking forever to fix this. These things require thorough analysis, Warren. Look, what if you just adjusted some numbers? Made things look better on paper? You're a financial consultant. You must know how to work the system. My grip tightened on the phone. You're asking me to commit fraud. I'm asking you to help family. There's a difference. No, Warren. There really isn't. I won't falsify documents. His voice turned cold. Then maybe you're not the right person for this job. Maybe I'm not. Feel free to fire me anytime. He hung up. I sat very still, then called Arthur. Warren just tried to get me to commit fraud. Did you record it? No, but I have witnesses to the call. And I documented it immediately in an email to myself.
Good.
This is going to get uglier before it gets better. Warren's attempt to corrupt me was a turning point. The next day, Carol called again, but her tone had changed. Vicky, Warren says you're being difficult. I'm being professional. He says you won't work with him, that you're making this harder than it needs to be. Carol, your husband asked me to falsify financial documents. That's illegal.
He didn't mean it like that.
He's just stressed. I don't care how he meant it. I won't do it. She was quiet for a moment. Maybe Warren's right. Maybe this isn't working. Are you firing me? I'm saying maybe we need someone more flexible. Someone who understands that family helps family. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. Family helps family? Is that why you forged my signature on 3 loan applications? Dead silence. What are you talking about? Her voice had gone very small. I found them, Carol. All 3 loans. My name. My social security number. My forged signature. Vicky, I can explain, don't. I have copies of everything. I've already consulted with lawyers. I heard her breathing accelerate. You wouldn't turn in your own sister. You didn't hesitate to steal my identity. That was Warren's idea. I didn't even know. Stop lying. Your handwriting is on half these documents. She started crying. Please don't do this. If this comes out, I'll lose everything. You already are losing everything. The question is whether you'll face consequences for breaking the law. I hung up. Within an hour, my phone started blowing up. Calls from Warren, texts from Carol, messages from relatives asking what was going on. I ignored them all. The family turned on me fast. By Saturday, I had 15 missed calls and dozens of messages. My Aunt Beatrice called me selfish. My Uncle Frank said I was being vindictive. Cousins I barely spoke to suddenly had opinions about family loyalty. Carol had gotten to them first, spinning her version of events. In her story, I was the villain. She'd come to me desperate and vulnerable, and I'd refuse to help unless she met my unreasonable demands. She'd tried to work with me, but I'd been cold and cruel. Now I was threatening her with legal action over minor paperwork issues. Nothing about the fraud. Nothing about the forged signatures. Nothing about her publicly humiliating me at the engagement party. Just poor Carol, victimized by her bitter older sister. I stopped answering family calls. There was no point defending myself. They'd already chosen who to believe. On Monday, I made several important calls. First, to the creditors Carol owed money to. I provided them with documentation showing the falsified revenue reports. Second, to the banks that had issued the fraudulent loans. I filed formal identity theft reports. Third, to state financial regulators. I reported the fraud with complete documentation. Then I called my boss and explained the situation. He was concerned but supportive. You're doing the right thing, Vicky. But be prepared. This is going to get messy. It already was messy. That afternoon, 2 investigators from the State Financial Crimes Division called to schedule interviews. By Wednesday, they were sitting in Carol's boutique, going through her records. By Thursday, the bank had frozen both her business and personal accounts pending investigation. And through it all, my phone kept ringing with family members telling me I wasn't helping enough. The investigators were thorough. They spent 3 days at Carol's boutique, then another 2 days at her house. They interviewed her. They interviewed Warren. They interviewed suppliers and customers. And they interviewed me. I sat across from Detective Hayes in a small conference room and answered every question honestly. How long have you known about the fraud? I discovered it 2 weeks ago while reviewing her business records. Why were you reviewing her records? She asked me to help save her failing business. I'm a financial consultant. And when you found your forged signatures, what did you do? I documented everything. I consulted with my lawyer. Then I reported it. Detective Hayes studied me. Your sister claims you're doing this out of revenge. That you've always been jealous of her success. I met his eyes steadily. My sister has humiliated me publicly for years. She's mocked my divorce, my career, and my life choices at every family gathering. Yes, I'm angry. But that's not why I reported her. Then why did you? Because identity theft is a crime. Because using someone's forged signature to obtain loans is fraud. Because what she did was wrong, and I won't help cover it up. Not even for family. He nodded slowly. Thank you for your honesty, Miss Patterson. We'll be in touch. 2 days later, the investigators issued their preliminary report. They confirmed the fraud. They verified the forged signatures. They found additional irregularities Carol hadn't even told me about. My name was cleared completely. Better than cleared. The report explicitly stated that I had been a victim of identity theft and had acted appropriately in reporting it. Word spread through the family fast. When the truth came out, things shifted. Suddenly, the relatives who'd called me selfish went quiet. The cousins who'd lectured me about family loyalty stopped texting. But Carol and Warren went into full panic mode. The banks weren't just freezing accounts now. They were demanding immediate repayment of fraudulent loans. Suppliers were filing lawsuits. The boutique's landlord started eviction proceedings. Warren called me at midnight, screaming, "You destroyed us. You destroyed your own sister. Are you happy now?" I reported crimes. That's all. We could have worked this out privately, but you had to involve the law. You had to ruin everything. I ruined nothing, Warren. You two did this to yourselves. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you are. I'll tell the whole family about your secrets. What secrets? My voice was ice cold. You have nothing on me, but I have documented evidence of your fraud. So go ahead. Tell everyone whatever stories you want. The investigators already know the truth. He hung up, but his threat worried me. Desperate people did desperate things. The next morning, Warren posted a long rant on social media about vindictive siblings, about family betrayal, about people who prioritize revenge over love. He didn't name me directly, but everyone knew who he meant. I didn't respond. I didn't engage. Instead, I called Arthur. Warren's trying to destroy my reputation. Let him try. You have investigators backing you up. He has fraud charges coming. What about Carol? She's going to have to face consequences. But honestly, Vicky, she's in less trouble than Warren. The investigators think he was the mastermind. That almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. The investigators' final report came 3 weeks later. It confirmed everything. Carol and Warren had committed systematic fraud over 5 years. They'd falsified documents, forged signatures, and misrepresented their business's financial health to multiple banks. Warren was the primary architect, but Carol had participated knowingly. The report specifically cleared me of any wrongdoing. It stated explicitly that I had been victimized by identity theft and had responded appropriately by reporting it to authorities. My credit would be restored. My name would be cleared from all the fraudulent loans. My professional reputation was intact. When my boss called me into his office, I expected questions. Instead, he smiled. The state investigators spoke very highly of you. They said you handled a difficult family situation with complete professionalism. Thank you. They also said you provided documentation that's going to be key in prosecution. You did good work, Vicky. For the first time in weeks, I felt something loosen in my chest. I'd done the right thing. The hard thing. And people were finally recognizing it. That evening, my Aunt Beatrice called. Vicky, I owe you an apology. You do. I believed Carol's version of events. I thought you were being cruel, but I saw the investigators' report. Or, at least what people are saying about it. And now I understand. I'm sorry I doubted you. Over the next few days, more apologies came. Uncle Frank,
Cousin Diane.
even some relatives I barely knew. They'd all heard Carol's lies. They'd all believed I was the villain. Now, they were seeing the truth. But the person I wanted to hear from most stayed silent. Carol didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't reach out at all. I heard through family gossip that she was falling apart, that she wasn't leaving her house, that she'd stopped posting on social media, that her marriage was collapsing. I tried not to care. But late at night, I'd think about us as kids. Before the competition, before the cruelty, when we'd actually been friends. One Thursday evening, I drove past her house without meaning to. The boutique had closed completely now. A for lease sign hung in the window. Their house looked dark and empty. I almost kept driving. Almost. But something made me pull over. I sat in my car for 10 minutes debating. Finally, I texted her. Are you home? 3 dots appeared immediately. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Yes. Can we talk? Another long pause. Come to the back door. She looked terrible. No makeup. Hair unwashed. Wearing sweatpants and an old college t-shirt. The confident, polished woman who'd mocked me at the engagement party was gone. We sat at her kitchen table in silence for several minutes. Finally, she spoke. Everyone knows now. Everyone knows what we did. Yes. They're all talking about me, judging me. Some of them are saying terrible things. Like you said, terrible things about me for years? She flinched but nodded. I deserved that. What do you want, Carol? I don't know. Maybe for you to understand why. Carol stared at her hands. Warren's leaving. He's moving out this weekend. I heard. The lawyers say most of this is on him. The fraud. The forgeries. They're saying I might avoid jail time if I cooperate. That's probably smart. She looked up at me, eyes red. He's telling people this was all my idea. That he was just following my orders. He's throwing me under the bus to save himself. Are you surprised? I should have seen it coming. He's been lying about money for years. Gambling. Secret credit cards. I just didn't want to see it. She wiped her eyes. The investigators found everything. Money he borrowed from his family and never told me about. Business deals that went bad. He's been drowning in debt for 3 years. And he dragged you down with him. I let him. I knew things were bad, but I kept pretending everything was fine. I kept posting happy photos. I kept bragging about the boutique. I kept making jokes about you being alone because it made me feel like at least I had something you didn't. Her voice broke. But I didn't have anything real. My marriage was fake. My business was failing. My whole life was a lie. Why did you use my name on those loans? She was quiet for a long time. Warren said we needed someone with good credit. Someone who wouldn't notice. He said you'd never find out. But you knew it was wrong.
Yes.
And I didn't stop him. I'm sorry, Vicky. I'm so sorry. She started crying. Real, ugly crying. Not performative tears meant to manipulate. Just genuine pain. I sat there feeling nothing. After everything, I just felt empty. 2 weeks later, Carol called me at 2 in the morning. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. She was sobbing so hard I couldn't understand her words. Carol? What's wrong? I can't do this anymore. I can't. Everything's gone. My business. My marriage. My friends won't talk to me. The neighbors whisper when I leave the house. I'm nothing without everything I built. You're not nothing. I am. I'm the woman who committed fraud. I'm the woman whose husband left her. I'm the failure everyone whispers about. Carol, you were right about me. You were right about everything. I'm a terrible person. She was spiraling, and I recognized the edge in her voice. Real desperation. Maybe even danger. Where are you right now?
Home. Alone.
Warren took half the furniture. The house feels so empty. I'm coming over. No, you don't have to. I'm already getting dressed. Stay on the phone with me. I drove to her house while keeping her talking. About nothing important. The weather. Old memories. Anything to keep her grounded. When I arrived, she was sitting on her kitchen floor, surrounded by legal papers and empty wine bottles. I sat down beside her. You're not nothing, Carol. How can you say that after what I did to you? Because it's true. You made terrible choices. You hurt me, but you're still a person. You still have value. She leaned against my shoulder and cried. And despite everything, I put my arm around her. The next morning, I took Carol to see a therapist I knew. Then I made her an appointment with a financial counselor. Not to save her business. That was gone. But to create a realistic plan for her future. You need structure, I told her firmly. You need boundaries. And you need to stop trying to control everything. I don't know how to do that. Then you'll learn. Starting now. Over the next month, I helped Carol create a repayment plan for her debts. We sold her expensive car and bought something practical. We downsized her life until it fit her actual income, not the fantasy she'd been pretending to live. But I wasn't rescuing her. I was teaching her to rescue herself. These are your choices, I'd say when she wanted me to make decisions. You created this situation. You figure out how to fix it. She resented it, at first.
She was used to being saved.
Used to Warren or her parents or someone fixing her problems. Why are you being so hard on me? She asked one afternoon. Because being soft hasn't helped you. You need to learn accountability. I hate this.
Good.
Hate is better than self-pity. Slowly, grudgingly, Carol started taking responsibility. She got a job at a department store. Not managing. Not designing. Just working the floor like everyone else. She started paying her debts one small payment at a time. She stopped pretending her life was perfect. And somewhere in that process, she started becoming real. Not the perfect sister. Not the successful businesswoman. Just Carol. Flawed and struggling, and finally honest. The court date arrived in July. 6 months after that engagement party, where Carol had humiliated me. Warren's lawyer had negotiated a plea deal. He'd testify against some of his business partners in exchange for reduced charges. Carol's situation was more complicated. She'd participated in the fraud, but investigators believed Warren had masterminded it. Her lawyer argued she'd been manipulated by her husband. The prosecution argued she'd known exactly what she was doing. I was called to testify. Not against Carol specifically, but about the identity theft and its impact on me. I sat in the witness box and answered every question honestly. Yes, I discovered my forged signatures. Yes, it had damaged my credit. Yes, I'd suffered financial harm. No, I didn't believe Carol had acted alone. But yes, she'd known what she was doing. The prosecutor asked if I wanted to see her punished. I looked at Carol sitting at the defense table. She looked small.
Scared.
Nothing like the confident woman who'd grabbed that microphone. I want to see justice served, I said carefully. Whatever that looks like. Carol's lawyer called her to the stand. She admitted to everything. The falsified records. The lies to banks. Her knowledge of the forged signatures. She didn't try to minimize it. She didn't blame Warren entirely. She just told the truth. The judge listened to everything. The prosecutor's arguments. The defense's plea. The documentation. The testimony. Finally, he spoke. This is a serious case of fraud. However, I'm taking into consideration the defendant's cooperation, her lack of prior criminal history, and the mitigating circumstances. The judge sentenced Carol to 5 years probation, extensive community service, and full restitution of the fraudulently obtained funds. She lost the boutique officially. The building was sold to pay creditors. She lost her luxury car, her designer clothes, most of her possessions. But she kept her house.
Barely.
And she kept her freedom. Warren got 3 years in prison. His fraud extended beyond Carol's business into other ventures. His gambling debts alone were over $200,000. Carol sat very still when the sentence was read. No tears. No dramatic reaction. Just quiet acceptance. Outside the courthouse, reporters wanted statements. I declined. Carol's lawyer made a brief comment about rehabilitation and second chances. Warren's family glared at all of us and left quickly. I found Carol sitting on a bench away from the cameras. You okay? She nodded slowly. I thought I'd feel worse. But honestly, I just feel relieved. It's over. The lying is over. Now comes the hard part. What's that? Living with the consequences. Rebuilding your life honestly. She looked up at me. Will you help me? I've been helping you for months, Carol. I know. But I mean really help. Not as a consultant. As a sister. I thought about that. About years of cruelty. Years of mockery. The forged signatures. The stolen identity. But also about her sitting on that kitchen floor, broken and honest for the first time in her life. I'll help, I said finally. But on my terms. With boundaries. And if you ever betray me again, I'm done. Completely done. I understand. I mean it, Carol. One more lie. One more manipulation. And I walk away forever. I won't. I promise. I wanted to believe her. Time would tell if I was right. 3 months after the sentencing, Carol asked to meet me for coffee. We sat at the same place where Diane had first told me about Carol's gossip. Carol looked different now. Simpler. Hair pulled back. Minimal makeup. Wearing jeans and a plain sweater. I've been in therapy, she said. Dr. Brennan is helping me understand some things. Like what? Like why I treated you the way I did. She stirred her coffee nervously. I was jealous of you. I almost laughed. Jealous? Of what? You had everything. No, you had everything. You had freedom. After your divorce, you rebuilt your life completely. New career. New home. New identity. You didn't need anyone. I needed family support. I didn't get it. I know. Because I was threatened by you. You proved that you could survive alone. That you could be happy without a husband or kids or the perfect Instagram life. She met my eyes. And I knew deep down that I couldn't. My entire identity was wrapped up in being the perfect wife and mother and businesswoman. Without those labels, I didn't know who I was. So you made me feel small to feel big. Yes. And I'm so sorry, Vicky. I'm sorry for every joke, every dig, every time I made you feel less than. You deserved better from me. I'd waited years to hear those words. Now that they'd come, they felt both meaningful and insufficient. Why now? Why tell me this now? Because Dr. Brennan says I can't heal until I'm completely honest about what I did and why. She paused. And because you deserve to know that none of it was your fault. I looked at my sister across the table. For the first time in years, maybe in decades, I saw her clearly. Not as the enemy. Not as the perfect sister. Just as Carol. Flawed. Broken. Trying. I appreciate you saying that. I told her quietly. But I need you to understand something. You humiliated me in front of 200 people. You stole my identity. You damaged my credit. You spent years making me feel worthless. I know, and I survived it all. I built a career you knew nothing about. I became successful despite you. Not because of anything you did. I didn't need your approval then, and I don't need it now. Carol nodded, tears in her eyes. You needed me to babysit your kids. You needed me to save your business. You needed me when your world fell apart. But I survived just fine when you were trying to destroy me. I leaned forward. So here's what I want you to remember every single day. You thought I was unwanted and bitter and alone. But I was free and strong and independent. You thought you were better than me. But you were just more trapped.
She was crying openly now.
I'm so sorry. I know you are. And maybe someday that will be enough. Maybe someday we'll actually be sisters instead of just relatives who share DNA. I stood up to leave, then paused. But that day isn't today. Today, I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. And I'm still trying to figure out if I can forgive you. What can I do?
Keep being honest.
Keep taking responsibility. Keep showing up to your therapy appointments and paying your restitution. Prove that you've actually changed. I walked away, leaving her at the table. It wasn't a dramatic exit. It wasn't revenge. It was just me choosing myself. Finally, 6 months later, our family held a reunion. The first one since everything had blown up. I almost didn't go, but Diane convinced me. People want to see you, Vicky. They want to acknowledge how strong you've been. The gathering was at Aunt Beatrice's house. Smaller than usual. Warren's family wasn't there. Some relatives who'd taken sides had stayed away. But about 30 people showed up. When I arrived, the conversations quieted. People stared. Then Aunt Beatrice walked over and hugged me.
We're proud of you, dear.
You did the right thing. Others echoed her. Uncle Frank shook my hand. Cousin Diane introduced me to her kids as the strongest person in our family. Someone asked about my work. I talked about the businesses I'd saved, the clients I was helping. People listened with genuine interest. No one dismissed my success or changed the subject. For the first time, they saw me. Carol arrived late alone. She stood in the doorway, looking uncertain. Several people greeted her politely, but coolly. She'd lost her position as the family success story. She was now the cautionary tale. I watched her navigate the room, accepting the consequences of her choices. At one point, she approached the group I was standing with. Hi everyone, she said quietly. Carol. Uncle Frank nodded. How are you managing? Day by day. Working at Riverside Department Store now. That must be quite an adjustment. It is. But I'm learning. She looked at me. Vicky, can we talk? Carol and I walked to the back porch where we could talk privately. She looked nervous. Vulnerable. Nothing like the woman who'd grabbed that microphone. Thank you for coming today, she said. I wasn't sure you would. Diane convinced me. I want to tell you something. She took a deep breath. I paid my first restitution installment last week. $500. It's not much, but it's a start. That's good, Carol. And I've been volunteering at a women's shelter, helping people rebuild their finances after leaving bad situations. It's something my therapist suggested. How's that going? It's hard. A lot of the women have stories worse than mine. It puts things in perspective. She twisted her hands together. I know I have years of work ahead. Years of paying back what I stole. Years of rebuilding trust. Yes, you do. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying. Really trying. Not to win back your approval, but because I want to be someone better than who I was. I studied her face. The honesty there. The humility. I believe you, I said finally. Relief flooded her expression. Really?
Yes.
You've been consistent for months now. You're doing the work. You're facing consequences. You're not making excuses. Does this mean you forgive me? I thought about that. About years of pain. About the woman who'd mocked me. About the sister who'd stolen my identity. About the person standing in front of me now, genuinely trying to change. I'm working on it, I said honestly. It's not there yet, but maybe someday.
Carol nodded, accepting that.
That's more than I deserve. Probably. But I'm choosing grace anyway. Not because you've earned it, but because I refuse to let your mistakes poison the rest of my life. I looked out at the family gathered inside. People who judged me.
People who doubted me. People who now respected me.
I spent years letting you make me feel small, letting your opinion define my worth. I'm done with that. I turned to face her directly. You needed me, Carol. You humiliated me publicly, you stole my identity, and you needed me to save you. I survived all of it. I'm successful. I'm respected. I'm free. And I'm paying for what I did. Yes, you are. And you'll keep paying for years. I smiled, not cruelly, but with complete confidence. But here's what I want you to remember. You called me unwanted. You called me bitter. You called me alone. And you proved me wrong about everything.
Yes.
I did. We stood together in comfortable silence. Not enemies. Not quite sisters. But maybe, eventually something in between. I walked back inside to the family who finally saw me. Who finally valued me. Who finally understood what I'd always been worth. Carol stayed on the porch a moment longer, then followed. In the end, my revenge wasn't destroying her. It was building a life so strong that nothing she did could touch it. It was standing tall while she fell. It was being free while she learned to carry her consequences. And it was knowing, with absolute certainty, that I never needed her approval to be exactly who I'd always been. Strong, successful, unshakable, and finally completely free.